everyone! In this video, I'll be talking about my first and probably last time working summer school as a paraeducator. For those wondering, what's a paraeducator? Well, a paraeducator is someone who works with either a small group of students or with one student in schools. Public schools, private schools, any sort of school. Students who get a paraeducator often have an IEP or 504, which are legal documents allowing students with disabilities and/or general difficulties in certain subjects to get the support they need to be successful in the current school system. This is the idea anyway. I am very aware that there are too many paraeducators and professionals in the education field in general who should not even be around children due to how badly they treat them. Also, school districts almost never want to pay paraeducators a living wage, so there isn't enough to go around for everyone, unfortunately. As a paraeducator in one of the more wealthy school districts, I only take home, on average, $1,700 a month. And in the city I live in, the average rent is $1,500. Yeah, this is why we live with family members at the moment. Yeah, still, the idea is that students who need extra support will get that from paraeducators. A lot of school districts offer summer school for students who need help maintaining the progress they've made throughout the school year. With how my school district runs it, all the staff and students from every school in the district, which is one of the largest school districts, by the way, are combined into 2 buildings. This kind of works because only certain students qualify for summer school, and from what I've heard, students have to meet very specific criteria that I don't know about yet. Working summer school is also optional for paraeducators and teachers, as most students that the paras in my district work with don't qualify for summer school. I decided to do it not only for the extra money that I kind of need after taking 3 months off for student teaching and 2 additional weeks off for tonsil surgery, but to continue helping students who need my support. I was also encouraged to do it at least once for the experience. Before summer school started, I got mixed opinions on it. Some people told me that it's super fun and a great way to meet other people who work in the district. Others told me that it's a giant mess that is poorly managed, unethical, and possibly illegal given how it's being run. Unfortunately, I found out that my experience ended up being the latter. Before I get into the mess that was my situation, I want to note that everyone's experience is different. While mine wasn't the greatest, others probably had a blast. This is just my experience. So, about 2 weeks before summer school started, we were all invited to an orientation where we found out which classroom we would be working in and which student or students we would be assigned to. Some people did get assigned to multiple students, along with whether we need to ride the bus with anyone. It'd be bus aid. I take a look at where I'm put, and I was one of the only, if not the only person from my school who wasn't working with any of the students or teachers from my school. I felt like this was a bit odd, but I went with it because not only do the teachers know I'm working towards being a teacher, but the district knows as well. So maybe their thinking was to give me an entirely different student in an entirely different classroom to expand my horizons and experience. I'm also one to accept a challenge when given one. Since I had to leave early for a going away thing for one of my best friends, who is currently teaching in Japan. I'm so proud of you, Kira, by the way. I quickly met up with the teachers. Yes, I said teachers, because we had 2, which we will find out did not work for my student. And the coordinator knew that, but put him in that classroom anyway. But, yeah. I quickly met up with the teachers I will be working with throughout the month to discuss the needs of my student and what to expect. This is where things start to get a bit interesting. All the other paraeducators have materials and sufficient information about their students. When it came to mine, there was basically nothing. I did try to pry, thinking the teacher was just withholding information from me at first. Turns out there was really nothing to share. The only information that I got about this kid was that he's very talkative and which school he goes to during the school year. That's it. I did walk away from that thinking it was a bit strange, but because of how people were talking about this kid, I thought everything would be just fine and the teachers would have everything figured out by the first day of summer school. Boy, was I wrong. It's the very first day of summer school. I'm given a bus list and a class schedule for my student and I to look at throughout the day. My kid gets off the bus, I introduce myself, and we get breakfast. Surprisingly, he doesn't want the breakfast that's offered. That's fine. We go back to the classroom and he picks out a fidget. He picks a fish. This is an important detail, trust me on this. He then opens his water bottle, dips the fish in it, and starts flinging the fish, flinging water everywhere. The teacher and I weren't sure how to approach the situation because the only thing we were told, as far as his behavior goes, was to ignore it. Luckily, the other teacher was there and had the idea of having him take the fish out of the classroom into the sink that was just outside the classroom. This worked for a few minutes, then he made a mess out of that whole area too. If the behavior was just this, I would have stayed all 4 weeks instead of only 3 out of the 4 weeks, because mess, while it is annoying, it doesn't really harm anyone. The only other things we were told about my kid were that he needs a fidget he can chew in his mouth, and he needs breaks longer than the time he does schoolwork. I really hope that makes sense. So, I can't get into specifics, but hopefully that makes sense. That's it. I don't remember much of the first day because crap didn't really hit the fan until the second day. The only other thing I remember about the first day is running around the very small school building we were in with my student and pulling him on a scooter during PE and lunch. The second day rolls around. This is when all hell breaks loose, and we find out the extent of my student's behavior. Since we missed the morning meeting the previous day, we're finding out what that is today. The very first thing is a fun morning exercise video with Danny Go. Apparently, the volume of the video, combined with students and staff exercising and singing along, caused my student to absolutely lose it. He starts hitting other students, trying to headbutt me, and trying to turn off or break the TV. This is when I figure out why I was the only staff member from my school put into this classroom. I, along with the only RBT in the classroom and the teacher, are the only people who are Ukaru certified, which means we're the only ones that can legally use an Ukaru pad, which is this thing right here. Ukaru, in very short terms, is a trauma-informed way to help students in a crisis situation. The pads are hard enough to protect the staff member holding it, but soft enough so the student doesn't hurt themselves if they hit it, kick it, bite it, or whatever they do to it. When it looks like the student might be ready to hear what we have to say, we let them know that we're listening and we're here for them, as well as ask them what they need at this time. At least that's my approach. Back to the situation. The RBT helps me calm my student down enough for him to listen to us both. By the time the BCBA comes in, he's mostly calmed down. The BCBA is the behavior analyst, by the way. I informed the BCBA that he came with no behavior plan. So, we made a temporary one that worked for a while. Once we got our footing later in the week, we were improving to the point that we didn't need to run around the halls to get his energy out anymore. On the last day of week 2, the teacher and I finally got not only his behavior plan, but his typical daily routine from the school he goes to during the school year. The behavior plan was too complex to start implementing in the middle of the term, so I gave my student a choice. We could either do the thing printed in black and white, or we could continue doing what we have been doing for the past 2 weeks, which was a classic token board with plenty of choices. We also provided a variety of fidgets for him. He chose what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks, and since it worked really well, we stuck to it. We stuck to it as long as we could, which was that day because next week, the other teacher took over the class. I have no clue why the coordinator or whoever was in charge of placing students put my student in a class where the teacher changes halfway through the term when they know damn well he is extremely strict with routines, but that was a thing. Something else that was a thing is that these teachers have notably different teaching styles. That isn't a bad thing. It's just not ideal for my student. I still wonder why he wasn't put in the classroom that he was in with the paraeducator that he had the previous summer. But, oh well, maybe it's pure laziness, negligence, and or just straight up not caring about my students' needs. Anyway, we start week 3 with a different teacher and a slightly different routine because we finally have what he's really supposed to be doing. We're still using the token board, timers, and plenty of choices for breaks. The teacher and I also tried to implement his routine from his other school because, although it is summer school, he still needs to get work done. Throughout the entire week, behaviors were getting worse due to the significant disruption in my students' routine. The stress of it all got to me at the very end of that week when the BCBA came in to observe and help out. I was following the combination of plans that my teacher and I agreed upon all week. My student starts freaking out, and the BCBA intervenes despite me being able to handle it. This got to me too much, and I told her I'm done and I need a break. She let me take a 10-minute break because that's what we agreed upon. After a few minutes, the BCBA comes back with the coordinator. The BCBA said that I told her I'm done with ESY, and while I did say that, I also told her I needed a break. Not that I was quitting. This is when I say to myself, well, it. If that's how it's going to be, I'm leaving then. And I go off on both of them. I told them exactly how I'd been feeling the entire time and how it's not fair that my student had to come in every single day without his plan from his other school, and as a result, the teacher and I had to deal with increasing behaviors. And not only that, but he's not gaining anything from summer school if he doesn't have his plan. Because if he doesn't have his plan, I can't do my job. The teacher can't do her job, or their job, I mean, teachers are all genders. We can't do our jobs without the proper paperwork and without the proper materials. But that was kind of what we were forced to do. But the BCBA tried to argue with me and stretch the truth by saying, well, we made a plan for him and you said it was working. Okay, but that was before we received his behavior plan at the end of week 2, by the way. That's when I was done with the conversation and just said this is my last day, and that's when I left. I will say, I was so upset about this that I cried all the way to a friend's place because I thought my career was over. I thought that people would now think that if I can't handle summer school, I won't be able to handle teaching, even though that's entirely false. I've been in much more intense situations and did just fine. I talked to others who worked at summer school with me, and they told me not to worry about it and that my career would be fine. I've heard from so many people who've experienced this disorganized version of summer school that since it's so disorganized, it's not going to matter in the long run as far as my career and reputation go. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about my thoughts and feelings on this experience to wrap up this talk time video. I mean, as if I wasn't doing it already, but I was mostly talking about, the facts of what happened with some of my thoughts, but, now is going to be a big chunk of my thoughts about it. Um, so, after processing this situation and speaking with my therapist, yes, I had to go through this with my therapist, I've come to realize that my thoughts, feelings, and actions are completely justified. My therapist told me I got a moral injury from working summer school because my student wasn't getting the proper education and service he needed. I felt guilty and blamed myself for a bit, but once I was able to process and reflect on the whole thing, I now acknowledge that I did the best I could with what I was given, or lack thereof, because I wasn't really given anything really. Paraeducators don't have much power in the school system, unfortunately. Our job is to use students' IEPs and other plans to provide as quality of an education for them as possible. As a paraeducator, I cannot do that without the students' information and plans. The situation I was thrown into was like asking someone to put out a fire with only the room temperature water bottle in your hand, which isn't fair for anyone, by the way. Well, that's all I really got to say about it. I hope that soon I can get back to work because I miss my kids, and while striking is needed to get a fair contract at this point, it's super exhausting, and possibly more exhausting than working at the school I work at. Nonetheless, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, awesome. If you didn't like the video, that's fine too. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any videos. As always, have an amazing day, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye!